The elite corps of Astral Dominion Station was not known for welcoming strangers, especially not fragile-looking ones from death worlds. When the shuttle doors parted with a whisper, dozens of recruits looked up from their drills. Some sharpened their armored gauntlets, others adjusted their exosuits, and a few folded their 4 or 6 arms behind their backs, observing with mild curiosity. But curiosity turned into confusion. The human girl who stepped out didn't make a sound. No footsteps, no nervous breaths, no fidgeting or darting eyes. Humans were known for noise, for laughter, anger, or stubborn defiance. But this one walked like a shadow cast by a dying star. Her hair was tied back. Her uniform was plain, her expression unreadable. The only notable thing was the identification chip on her wrist. Transfer student, origin Earth. The Zenarian sergeant, a towering, blue-skinned veteran with 3 eyes and a scar across his throat, narrowed all 3 of his pupils. "Name?" he demanded. The girl didn't answer for a full 5 seconds. Many recruits began to murmur. Finally, quietly enough to make even the sergeant lean in, she said, "Aria. Only Aria. No surname. No designation. No history." The sergeant exhaled sharply. "You're late. Humans are usually eager to prove themselves." Aria didn't answer. She simply looked around, and for the briefest moment, every recruit who met her eyes felt something strange, like they were being measured, weighed, and quietly dismissed. A murmur rippled through the hangar. "Earthling thinks she's something special. Maybe she's mute." "No," she spoke. "Strange girl. Why transfer to the elite corps? They say humans break easily." "Yeah, last year one fainted during oxygen hypershift training." Aria ignored them all. She looked at the training ground. The towering gravity pillars, the dueling rings, and the simulation tunnels. To her, it was nothing remarkable. But to everyone else, she was the most confusing recruit they had ever seen. And confusion soon turned into irritation. The sergeant barked, "Orientation starts now. You will be tested. You will fail. You will fall. But if any of you survive, you'll serve the Dominion as soldiers worthy of legend." Then his eyes slid to Aria. "Even you, human." Aria didn't blink. She simply whispered, "I understand." Strangely, the sergeant shuddered. Not because of her words, but because of the calm behind them. A calm that did not belong to a new recruit. A calm that belonged to someone who had survived far worse. The first trial was the gravity run, a gauntlet designed to make cadets collapse within minutes. 20 recruits stood at the starting line. The pillars hummed, preparing to increase weight density every 30 seconds. Aria stood at the far left, small, silent, unnoticed. The siren blared. Recruits sprinted, claws scraping and boots pounding. A few used their extra limbs to stabilize themselves. The first increase hit, gravity doubled. A Zenarian stumbled. A Lockery with armored knees grimaced. Aria merely adjusted her stride. Her breathing didn't change. 30 seconds later, gravity tripled. Bodies slammed against the floor. A reptilian recruit hissed in pain as his joints strained. Aria's steps remained steady, rhythmic, almost lazy. "Is her gravity compensator malfunctioning?" "No, readings are normal." "Impossible. Humans can't." Before they could finish, gravity jumped again. The remaining recruits dropped to their knees. Only one figure kept moving. Not running, not sprinting, walking. Aria reached the end of the gauntlet, touched the wall gently, and waited, breathing evenly. The sergeant stared at his data pad. Her vitals were steady, perfectly normal, almost too normal. "Human," he muttered under his breath. "What are you?" Aria didn't answer. She just stepped aside and watched the others struggle to finish. By the time the last recruit crawled out, they weren't whispering anymore. They were staring at her openly and uneasily. If the gravity run surprised the cadets, the dueling ring nearly broke them. Every recruit had to fight someone chosen by the sergeant. The goal was simple: don't die. When Aria's turn came, the sergeant hesitated for the first time that day. His eyes scanned the roster. He picked Karel, a towering 6-armed warborn hybrid with reinforced carapace plates. Karel grinned, cracking 2 sets of knuckles at once. "Human," he growled. "Don't worry. I'll make it quick." Aria just stepped into the ring. No stance, no defensive posture, no tension in her muscles. She looked like she was waiting for a bus. Karel jumped forward, swinging all 6 fists at once. There was a blur, then a sound like a crack of lightning. Karel's body slammed into the ground, all 6 arms pinned behind him by Arya's knee as if they weighed nothing. The spectators blinked. What just happened? I didn't even see her move. Karel roared and threw his weight to the side. His strength was enough to topple an armored shuttle. Arya shifted slightly, just a few centimeters, and Karel's entire body collapsed back down again. She didn't hurt him. She didn't even strike him. She simply controlled him like a chess piece. Karel snarled, humiliated. "Fight me properly!" Arya looked down at him with steady, calm eyes. Then she whispered, "You telegraph your movements." With one fluid twist, she disarmed him completely, not by breaking a limb, not by overwhelming force, but by technique so refined that even the veteran sergeant exhaled sharply. She fights like a ghost. The duel lasted less than 8 seconds. When she stepped out of the ring, recruits stepped aside without being told. Not out of respect, out of fear. By evening, the elite corps barracks buzzed with whispers. "Did you hear? The human single-handedly beat Karel." She walked the gravity run like it was nothing. "I heard she has assassination training." "No, she has psychic enhancements." "Maybe she's not even human. Maybe she's some hybrid weapon." Arya sat on her bunk, quietly cleaning her gloves. She didn't argue. She didn't deny. She didn't confirm. Silence was her only shield. But beyond the walls, the station was not silent. At 02:14 station time, alarms blared through the corridors. Intruder alert. Hostile boarding party detected. The cadets jolted awake. Some panicked. Some scrambled to grab weapons. Arya was already standing. Karel hissed, "We're not cleared for combat. We're recruits." Arya didn't respond. She simply stepped into the hallway, following the screaming alarms as if following a familiar melody. The sergeant spotted her and shouted, "You! Human! Stay back!" She walked past him. He tried to grab her arm. He missed. She had already moved. Not aggressively. Not rudely. Just fast enough that his hand found empty space. The sergeant froze. There was no recruit, no soldier, only a shadow wearing a human's shape. Down the hall, explosions rocked the station. A hostile strike team of mercenaries. Cut through the bulkhead like slicing warm metal. The cadets panicked. Arya exhaled. It was the first real expression she'd shown all day. Not fear, not excitement. Just a quiet, familiar acceptance. As if she had been waiting for this. She stepped forward. A mercenary turned the corner, armored and armed with a plasma caster. He never even lifted the weapon. Arya was already behind him. A single motion. A twist. A silent fall. Another mercenary charged with a blade. Arya's hand tapped his elbow, dislocating it, then swept his legs. He collapsed, unconscious before he hit the floor. Her movements were so fluid they almost defied physics. Where others made noise, Arya made none. Where others hesitated, Arya acted. Where others bled, Arya ended the fight before blood could spill. Within minutes, the corridor was cleared. By sunrise, the entire boarding team had been neutralized by a single recruit, and the only word drifting through the station was, human. Arya, Shadow Girl, ghost from Earth. The elite corps had seen countless species, but none like her. When dawn's artificial lights illuminated the training halls, the sergeant stood before the assembled cadets. His voice, always sharp and commanding, held an unfamiliar edge. Respect. Last night, our station was attacked. Recruits are forbidden from engaging in live combat. One of you disobeyed. Every recruit looked at Arya. Arya didn't speak, didn't defend herself, didn't look ashamed. The sergeant continued. She neutralized 12 mercenaries before the response team arrived. Without lethal force, without taking a single injury. A hush fell. She disarmed opponents triple her weight, evaded detection, ended a boarding operation alone. He turned to her. In my 30 years of service, I have seen heroes. I have seen monsters. But I have never seen anything like what you did, human. Arya met his gaze calmly. The sergeant inhaled deeply. What is your background? Who trained you? What were you before you arrived here? Arya looked at the rows of cadets staring at her with fear and awe. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. I don't want to be what I was, she said. That's why I'm here. The sergeant paused, then nodded. From this moment, he said, you are no longer a transfer student. He saluted her, a gesture never given to a recruit. You are a full member of the elite corps. Gasps erupted through the hall. Arya didn't smile, didn't cry, didn't react. She simply bowed her head. Quiet, respectful, human. But later, when she walked alone through the hallway, she heard whispers carried by ventilation currents and hushed cadet voices. The human saved the station. She fights like a legend. She moves like a ghost. By sunrise, everyone knew her name. Arya, the silent human. She paused. Not because of pride, but because it had been a long time since anyone had spoken her name with that tone. Not fear, not pity, but awe. For the first time in years, she whispered back to herself, maybe this place can be home. And when she stepped forward, her footsteps were still silent. But her legend was not. It echoed through every corridor, and it was only the beginning.